All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Dina. I'm one of the team here at Elderwerks Educational Services. As a friendly reminder, for those of you who have attended Elderwerks before or this is your first, we are recording today's presentation. Please do put questions into the chat and we will answer those throughout the presentation. Elderworks is a non-for-profit organization whose focus is to help and assist seniors wherever they are with all aspects of aging so that they can age well at home or if need be move. But sometimes it's just connecting seniors to vital resources so they can age well as providing education such as what you are seeing today. You hear the doorbell. That's as people are joining. I apologize, I couldn't get that turned off. Today, we are very, very fortunate to have Michael and Judy presenting for us. They are common faces for seniors here at Elderworks, and we're blessed to call them our friends as well. Today's presentation is going to be on safety and privacy tips for the internet. Why does Elderworks want to talk about this and provide this? A lot of our older population are getting stuck with some scams and different things like that. But technology is important to everyday living for all of our seniors. And Judy and Michael have been kind enough to do a series for us. And so today it's on safety and privacy tips. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael and Judy. And if they want to further do an introduction on themselves, they can. But again, thank you for being here today. Michael, Judy, take it away.
Thank you very much. And today we're going to be talking about safety and privacy tips. Judy and myself, here are our pictures if you don't recognize us or don't see our names. This is our general hold harmless agreement and basically our notice. And basically it says, check us out. You know, anything that we talk about, you got to verify for yourself. We're using this as a compilation of information and ideas that we have accumulated over the past several years. But what we're not going to talk about today is I'm not going to talk about statistics. I'm not going to talk about finance or social media. We're certainly not going to recommend specific products. There's plenty of that information out there to scare you or to inform you, depending on how you look at things. I'll leave the research up to you. Instead, we suggest to do your due diligence and educate yourself. Keep on top of it. Understand that you are a target. Your information, your data is valuable to people, especially from third world countries who use this to exist. They use this for their everyday earnings. It's their payday. You're nothing more than a product. You're nothing more than a way to earn money. And understand that, because they think that all Americans are rich and that we can afford, to lose some money occasionally to these scams or these problems. What we will discuss today, as the outline did, were 5 major areas. I'll take them one at a time. We're going to give you some information. You may have heard it. You may not have heard it. I'll guarantee you, you're going to take away at least one aha moment here. And that's what I always look for whenever I go and take a webinar or any kind of a seminar, to find something that I didn't know, to uncover another little nugget of knowledge out there. A lot of this, and we have a lot of guests here from our other program that we do. We have been hosting what's called Wacky Tips on Senior Planet from ARP since January of 2022. Everybody is invited. There is no charge to do this. All you have to do is search for Senior Planet from ARP and look for our classes on Monday afternoons. I just want to start and talk a little bit about privacy and safety and security. These are the things that make you comfortable and secure when you're online. Privacy is really defined as the controlling your personal information. I akin it to having curtains and blinds on the windows in your home, and you could leave them open or you can close them so that people outside don't see in unless you want them to. There's personal information that we're talking about that is valuable to hackers and scammers are your address, your phone number, password, social security numbers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, mother's maiden name, how many sites do they ask for? What's your mother's maiden name so you can identify yourself? Well, there are people out there that are gathering all of this information on you. And once they have it all together or parts of it, they actually go to different sites and test to see whether that information is going to open up an account that you may have opened in your own name prior to that. So we talk about safety and security. And these are things that help keep that information safe from prying eyes and unwanted access. In addition to blinds and shades that you have on your house, it's like having those strong lock and alarms on your doors and windows. It makes it difficult for anyone to break in and take your belongings. And you have to consider your personal information, your personal belonging. So the security protects your information from being stolen or used without your permission. So the first topic I want to talk about is a major data leak and potential cybersecurity threats. A definition of a data leak or a data breach is when sensitive, protected, or confidential information has been viewed, stolen, or used by someone not authorized to do so. Cybersecurity threats are like people trying to break into your online home and steal your information or cause you trouble. We hear about these hacks and leaks and attacks and data breaches every day. We've just heard about one with AT&T. We just heard about some attacks on Zelle and Venmo if you're using those methods to pay accounts. So they're happening all along. And the typical response that we have heard is, so what? My data's out there anyway. There's nothing to be worried about, and I can't do anything about it. Well, that's not true, all right? Because hackers can do a whole myriad of things with your data. They can commit financial fraud. They can create IDs and passports. They can apply for government benefits. They could file for income tax returns. They could actually buy a car, a home, or rent an apartment. They could create fake social media accounts. My identity has been stolen. Judy's identity has been stolen. Our daughter's identity has been stolen. If it can happen to us, it can happen to you. And you may not be aware that there was a massive data leak that I have been talking about since January of 2024. It was first announced by a company called Cyber News. There was a breach of 26 billion records. It was not a single leak, but a compilation of records for thousands of previous links. These are just some of the major sites where the information was leaked, and there's many, many more. I quickly checked and found my data, Judy's data, our daughter's data, 2 friends' data, 2 business clients' data was leaked. When we talked about this on Wacky Monday on Senior Planet from ARP, we found many people who went back and checked and found that their data had been leaked. So the question is, were you affected? And what action steps should you take if you were affected? Well, there's a couple of sites out there that you can actually check to make sure, or excuse me, to find out whether your data was leaked or not. And these are reputable sites. Cyber News is the site that first disclosed that this information had been leaked. And another site that I've been using for years is called I Have Been Pawned. Excuse me, it's Have I Been Pawned without the A, which will give you a yes, you've been pawned, and tell you how your data was, who leaked your data, and or they'll tell you no, your data was not leaked. So if your data was leaked and you want to start safeguarding things in the future, the more barricades that you can present, the more obstacles that you can put in front of a hacker, in front of these people that are looking for your information, the better off you're going to be. We had a discussion just yesterday about this, that this is one of the main things that all white collar hackers talk about, just the fact that these scammers and these hackers are lazy. If they find obstacles in their path, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to look for the course of least resistance. So here are some defensive action steps to take. Change your passwords if you found that they were leaked. We always recommend using strong, unique passwords. If you haven't heard about it, two-factor authentication, especially on financial and sites where you're shopping quite a bit, is very important. You should think about using a secure password manager. Consider using passkeys when available. Always keep your virus and malware protection updated. You can think about and install a VPN. You can actually tell data brokers to stop selling your information. And when online, here are some tips that are really important. If you're outside of your home, if you're traveling, if you're commuting, if you're shopping, consider what's called a Faraday bag or a Faraday wallet for your phone and phone or laptop. Turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth completely unless you need it, or only when you need it, turn it on, and stay off of public and unverified Wi-Fi networks. Now, I'll put up some slides on these things. I'm not going to read them to you verbatim, and of course, they're going to be available on the recording. But here's some information on how long it takes to crack a password. This talks about 12 plus characters, and with artificial intelligence, the recommendation is to have passwords of at least 16 characters at this point in time. And that's probably going to get worse. Two-factor authentication. Two pieces of evidence to prove who you are. It's an extra layer of security. And there's different ways to do that. Either you can be offered this by the organization or the site that you're going to, or you can actually install an app that will do two-factor authentication for you. Password managers, they can securely store your passwords, passkeys, and other information. It's like a safety deposit box. Some even generate their own passwords and help with identity theft, and have what's called anti-phishing features and more. Most of these services have autofill that make it convenient to log in, and basically you only have to remember 3 numbers if you use a password manager. They can also keep your credit card information close. They can be cloud-based or local. The benefit for having cloud-based is you can sync passwords on all your devices in real time. Local, then that data is not on the internet, so you have full control of it, but it's only available then on a single device. Passkeys are limited now. Some sites are offering them. You can investigate a little bit further, but it's really a digital authentication credential securely stored on a device. You'll need either a PIN or a fingerprint or a face scan, some biometrics to authenticate or log in. They're unique for every online service you use, and it connects automatically to the service. So very, very important. Antivirus and malware protection is a high priority. They identify and eliminate malware before they can become installed on your devices. There are free antivirus solutions that are more than capable of protecting you from basic threats. And it's both on Apple and on Windows devices and Linux devices. The premium products include extra security if you're concerned about it, multi-factor authentication, even bundled VPNs, antivirus solutions, and parental control apps. You basically have to determine the risk level that you're willing to assume when you decide whether you want to go with a free antivirus or malware protection. VPNs are virtual private networks. There are free VPNs, and then there are VPNs that you have to pay for. What it does is it encrypts your internet traffic and gives you a new IP address. I have one installed both on my computer and on my smartphone. What it does is it hides your IP address. It hides the location that you're accessing the internet on, and it actually it protects you from hackers and other people trying to find your location. Again, they're free and premium VPNs available out there. And again, I have to stress, you have to determine what risk you're willing to assume out there. You can actually tell brokers to stop selling your data, stop companies from trading your privacy. These are three leading sites, Axiom, Oracle, and Epsilon, where you can register and tell major data brokers to stop selling your data. This is a phone app from a very reputable site, Consumer Reports, that allows you to do this on any of the sites that you've been visiting on your smartphones. Faraday bags is something we've discussed over the past several months. They block radio signals that are emanating from your cell phones, even from your laptops if you're taking them out. They prevent them from escaping, and they're not traceable and they're not trackable. They block Bluetooth, RFID, GPS, and Wi-Fi signals. They're not very expensive. And a word of caution, please stay off of public Wi-Fi networks, and always make sure that if a Wi-Fi network needs a passcode, that it is from a reputable source, somebody that you trust and verify. Stay off of public Wi-Fi, especially in airports. They're extremely vulnerable, and there's been warnings from the Fed recently about them. I'll pause now for any questions. I know I went over this quite a bit. I also have to take a drink because I'm getting over a head cold. But Judy, are there any questions about this?
Not at the moment.
I have questions. Patricia Flannery.
Okay.
Where do I get a Faraday bag or a wallet?
You'll have to search for them. I can't recommend any products out there.
Just Google it.
I hate the word Google. You know.
Okay. Search.
I know presentations. I talk about staying away from Google, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So I like the word search. Google, unfortunately, has become the generic word for search, just like Kleenex and Xerox and things of that nature.
It has.
Yeah.
And then where do you find free antivirus and malware protection?
What
The free
type of
stuff.
device? What type of device are you?
I use an iPhone.
Okay. And what type of computer?
I just got a new
We just want to know about Windows, right?
yeah.
Are you on Windows?
Yeah.
All right. Number one, on your iPhone, I can't address that, but there is antivirus software for both iPhones, and I think it actually comes standard on iPhone, and I don't know if anybody out there has an iPhone who could comment on that. On Android, it does not come standard, but if you're talking about Windows, a Windows computer, Windows computers come with built-in Defender, and for most scenarios, it's perfectly adequate to protect against most threats out there. If you're extremely hyper, then I would go with a paid-for antivirus, but I can't make any recommendations because I don't use it. I've never used a paid-for antivirus, or at least have not used one probably for the past 15 or 20 years. The only recommendation I have above that on a Windows computer would be to install a free program called Malwarebytes. And that is another level of security against malware, even though Defender does give you protection against malware. Malware, I've also installed this program called Malwarebytes, in addition to using Defender. But you have to keep them up to date. That's one thing you have to remember. You have to keep these antivirus and malware programs up to date. Did I answer your question?
What do you mean up to date?
If you get notified of updates, make sure that you update them. For instance, on Windows, you're gonna have, most of the time, you're gonna have a Tuesday update on a Windows computer, and make sure that that computer is set up to either automatically install those updates or to give you notice of those updates. You don't have to worry about that generally on an Apple, on a Mac, because that's an automatic function. Anything else? Any other questions out there?
There's a question in the chat. Do you have to physically change your phone to use public Wi-Fi, or when you're at the airport, does it change automatically?
No, what happens on the phone is when you go to look for Wi-Fi, it's going to survey the available Wi-Fi networks out there, and then you get to pick and choose. But again, when you're in an airport, there could be Wi-Fi networks out there that masquerade as one of the airlines or something like that. You've got to make sure that even if you can get a password, that it's not somebody masquerading as a legitimate Wi-Fi network. You've got to verify and make sure that you need a password to access that network. To never get on a network unless you have a VPN that does not require a password.
Where would you find password managers?
Again, you have to search for them.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Jude, was there anything else?
No, there is not.
All right. My slide screwed up here, so let's get everything up. I want to talk about the fact that there's a difference between a browser and a search engine. A browser gets you onto the internet and shows the web pages. A search engine finds the websites that contain the information relevant to your search terms. They can be a combination or they can be completely separate. I just did this a day or so ago, and these are statistics through March of 2024, and it shows you that Google Chrome, Safari, Microsoft Edge, and Firefox have 95% of the browser market share. But this is not the total story here, because each browser has their own search engine. And Chrome and Firefox use Google, and Safari, unbeknownst probably to most people, actually uses Google search engine itself. Edge is the only one out there that has its own search engine called Bing. Now, let's go back to statistics. And whether you're on Safari or whether you're on Chrome or whether you're on Firefox, most of the time, 86.9% of the time, you're actually using Google. Well, Google's the greatest search engine invented up to date. The problem is it, along with Bing, are relatively safe and secure, but they're not private. They're out there gathering your data and using it to display ads and promotions, and quite possibly to sell your information to others. We haven't really put a nail on that, hammer on that nail as of yet, but there is suspicion out there. All right. So you should consider using more private browsers and search engines. And there are a few available to you out there. Brave, DuckDuckGo, Firefox, and StartPage are all more private browsers out there. Now, I have to add a caveat that there is no search engine completely anonymous, and the results may vary. You can change your default search engine on your browser, and you can even install a safer search engine or an extension within a browser itself. I use DuckDuckGo extension on several browsers that I use if I have to search for something quickly. And this is what it looks like. This is actually DuckDuckGo that I use as an extension on a Chrome browser. And it also will work with Firefox. It does not work well with Bing, but it does work with any of the Chromium-based search engines out there. And you find them by going to the store, the application store, and just downloading them and installing them on your browser if you wish to do that. However, here's one place where I will make a recommendation. If you're doing search out there, Brave search engine is the most private and secure search engine that we know of right now that's easily accessible by most people. It has anti-tracking and anti-blocking, it has ad blockers built into it. It's the only search engine that I can use right now to go to YouTube and to avoid ads. None of the ad blockers that I have installed on any of my other search engines will stop ads from showing on YouTube any longer. So this is my personal default search engine, both on my desktop as well as on my phone. So again, that is Brave. And again, I will ask for any questions out there.
Dumb to ask.
There is nothing in the chat.
All right. Does anybody have any questions about browsers or search engines? Well, be brave out there and try it as a browser and search engine. All right. I'm just going to give you some safer internet browsing habits. Some of them, again, you may have heard about. Some Some of them you may not have heard about. And these are things that, again, we talk about on our Wacky Monday program. And I try to, I do these all the time. So one of the things you have to do is understand cookies and privacy. You have to understand the S in what HTTPS and the lock keys are. What enhanced safety means, ad blockers and anti-tracking extensions or apps on your browsers, unless of course you use Brave, which I just spoke about, which has those ad blockers and anti-tracking extensions built into them. There's a default on your email that's called autofill, and or on your browser that's called autofill, and we want to make sure that that is turned off. And I want to give you some caution about what setting up new accounts, and always use some third-party sites to check for viruses or malware reliability, etc., before you go to them or before you download something. All right. If you don't know, cookies are not, you don't have to accept all cookies when you're browsing. And if a site does not give you the option of turning off cookies, I personally do not visit that site, because cookies, some cookies are necessary because they're small text files that helps really that site to improve your experience. It remembers your settings, your login, your information, your language, your reason. So you don't have to reinstall them or reuse them every time you go to that site. But third-party cookies that are shared with other sites are often used for cross-tracking purposes and advertising, and you should not be required to be using those. Most browsers allow you to manage those, and you can block them, clear your cookie history, or even disable them entirely. There are apps or browser extensions to further facilitate them. And again, I would do a search, especially on the browser that you're using, to see what type of apps or what type of extensions are available to you on that browser. And there are, of course, privacy laws that impact how they can collect and use your cookies. But I don't trust these laws, especially in the United States, where it's been known that they're kind of lax as far as enforcing these laws. The S in HTTPS doesn't mean that a website is safe. What that means is that the information that you upload is encrypted and cannot be seen by somebody. But that does not mean that the site itself is safe. And I am still, in this day and age, seeing security and privacy webinars and programs that talk about checking the S in HTTPS and seeing that that site is secure. All right. Anybody can buy the SSL security certificate when they start a website. Some of those are even shared. That doesn't mean that it's not a bad guy trying to gather your information. So do not rely on the S in the HTTPS to mean that that is a safe site to upload information. Google Chrome has even eliminated the lock sign and doesn't reveal the HTTPS by default. It has these two horizontal lines if you go to Google Chrome rather than the old lock sign on it. Enhanced protection. This is an example of Gmail. You may, and you have to go into your settings in your emails to see what, in your browsers, to see what type of browsing that is allowed. And most of them are going to default to no protection or standard protection. In this case, you have an option, this is Chrome, to select enhanced protection. And what you ought to do is go into those settings and see what your options are, and then make an adult decision as to how much risk you are willing to take out there. Ad blockers on browsers are available in your Chrome store, in Firefox. As I said, I use Brave, even though I have these installed on my other browsers, because they have these built into them. And again, Brave, as far as I'm concerned, is the most private and safe browser for average people to be using out there. There are other ones, but they're not as well known, and there's not as much relevant information about them available. Autofill. This is something that we probably take for granted because it's so easy to use autofill when you're completing a form, because of the fact that we don't have to type in all this information, and we're not going to make mistakes. Well, the biggest problem with autofill is some of these things may not be shown to you, and what you've got stored on your computer may be some of the private information that you don't want to share with this particular site. And by hiding these fields, that site can actually capture information. So I know it takes a little bit more time, but my advice here is do not use autofill when you're on the internet. The settings are available. You just have to go into settings. This is Chrome. This is Firefox to show you that these, again, are settings that you can toggle off and not have as a default out there. Here's some guidelines for when setting up accounts. Set up a separate email address to register or subscribe to sites. Use a variation of your name. I use different middle initials to track whether somebody is actually selling my data out there. Use a free Google voice phone instead of your regular cell phone to register for confirmation or two-factor authentication. Google voice phones are free, and they work on smartphones, they work on the web. They will give you a voicemail transcription. You can forward calls. You can block spam calls on them. If you have any questions, Judy is probably the pro on Google voicemail.
Also text.
Also text. All right. Yes, you can. I should add that to the slide. There are some platforms out there. You can actually check websites for virus or malware. And I have done this and gotten surprised on this. There's a site out there where you can check on the reputation of a website to see whether, how long it's been around, who the owners are, possibly if they don't register privately. Here is a scam detector site where you can actually go in there and see if there's been any security issues on there. This is a browser extension that I use automatically on Chrome or on Brave. When I download things, it will actually scan that for viruses or malware before I do the download. And it's automatic. I don't have to think about using this. Again, this is an extension, and this one is shown for Chrome on the Chrome Web Store. And I strongly suggest these things. And everything that I recommend is free. Judy and I like the word free, and that's why I do not recommend paid for services unless we use them. This has been some standard advice from McAfee, which is one of the leading antivirus companies out there. It's never click and it's never use these words, agree, okay, no, or yes, in a pop-up. They can trigger automatic spyware downloads. They can also give consent to malicious word. Even clicking no is now appropriate, is now enough to approve spyware in this day and age. It only used to be don't say yes or don't click on yes, but now these other words are extremely vulnerable. All right, any questions on this section?
Yes, when a URL address does not include the www, what does that signify? Is that a substantial difference?
Nothing anymore. That has not been needed for years. The only thing you need is really the HTTP or the HTTPS. And even when you go to copy that URL, if you're trying to copy it from the browser, it's going to include the HTTP or the HTTPS when you copy it.
Mm-hmm.
www is no longer necessary in a web address.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That is it.
That is it. Okay. So here's some good email practices I want to go over with you. If you don't know about it, you can always mouse over a suspicious email address or link to see if it's actually from the sender that it claims to be. You can use filters or blocks to send suspicious emails to purgatory. One thing, and this is a little known fact, is you have the ability to block images from automatically opening on an email. And I've got a slide about this. I want to talk about this. Avoid spam. Always be cautious with emails and downloads. That's why I use those extensions and those other applications to check before I'm doing it. And protect your personal data when you send an email. And there are ways to do that using your email provider. Recognize and report phishing. This is a topic unto itself. This program is kind of a consolidation of probably 3 or 4 hours of information that I have gathered over these years. And I've attended many, many webinars, and I get feeds from dozens of different sites. And Judy will testify that my nose is in my smartphone 3 or 4 times a day, going over this information.
Oh, yeah.
And then sharing it with people again on our Wacky Mondays program. So, Judy, are you going to testify to that?
Absolutely. 24/7.
No, I do sleep. All right, so all you really have to do is mouse over an email address. I mean, this is coming from PayPal. Do I know that that's from PayPal? No, it's actually coming from mail.yahoo.com. So I'm not going to open that because it's coming from a non-PayPal address. All right. This is how I can block emails in Chrome, and you actually have the ability to do this in any email provider that you use. This is the thing that we caution against. And again, this should be an aha moment if you're not aware of this. Do not automatically display external images on your emails. And these are the reasons. It can slow down your performance. It can hinder accessibility, and this applies for people who are blind or impaired vision. But the biggest problem is security. These images can be used to track your email activity, and they can see your IP address or even deliver malware. So this is a caution, and again, should be something that you highlight and take a note of. This is a Gmail, again, example of what your option is. And every email I have checked defaults to displaying external images. So you have to get into your settings and toggle or turn on ask before displaying external images. And I strongly recommend that if you don't have this disabled, as far as displaying external images, that you change that setting in your email account.
Can you explain at this point what an external image is?
That will be an image that's embedded in the email itself. In other words, if you get an email from Elderwerks, at the bottom of Elderwerks, they have an image displayed there as part of their signature. That's what I'm talking about as far as embedded images. Did that answer your question? I can give you an example of that after we're finished with the presentation, if you want to hang on.
Okay,
Anything else?
no, not at the moment.
All right. These to me are obvious spam emails. I put them into a folder called scams. And just by looking at either what they're saying, what they're addressing, I mean, look at some spelling or typo mistakes on here, or some of the emails that are coming, you know, that they're supposedly coming from. Just don't open them. Never click on them. Just ignore them. I don't know whether you're aware, but emails can give you some sort of protection if you're emailing personal data. They are allowed to password protect emails. You can create a document, password protect it. It does not encrypt the message itself, but it protects the content from anyone who doesn't have the password. I do this on Gmail. It involves, you also need the cell phone address, the cell phone number of the person you're sending it to, so you can send them the passcode or the password to decrypt it. Some other things are, you could add an expiration date to it. Recipients can only read the message, they can't forward it. And again, you can enter a passcode that you send to their cell phone before they can access that message. This is, again, a little known aspect of the email providers that you're using out there. So this is what it looks like. It's called confidential mode. And again, this is an example of Gmail, which most of the people, the vast majority of people that we deal with are using in this day and age. I don't mean to single it out, but it is mostly the go-to. So confidential mode does add an extra layer of protection, but it's not foolproof. It's not true end-to-end encryption, gives you limited protection, and if it is intercepted, it can be used to access the message. There are encryption software that will enable you to scramble an email message. It's more sophisticated, it's complicated, and it's costly. But again, it's your private information. So the question becomes, what's your risk tolerance when it comes to this? All right, any questions? Jude, anything out there in the chat?
Yes, no.
All right. Let me go up here. Backing up and updating your operating system, programs, apps, and plugins. This is really your first level of defense. And I have been preaching this for months and months and months. If you get attacked, if you have a hardware failure, my philosophy personally is my data is much more important to me than my computer, my operating system, or the programs that I am using. So backing up that data and keeping it secure is much more important, because I can take that data and I can open up another computer and access that information without worrying about the fact that I cannot access my computer because it's either been hacked or because there was a lightning strike or a hardware failure or a crash or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Mac users should enable Time Machine. This is not the default. Please be aware of that. But Time Machine should be enabled, which does automatic backups for you much better than Windows. They far outreach what Windows users have available to them. And Windows users need to be aware of restore points, especially before downloading and installing programs, recovery disks, and repair disks. Right. It's cumbersome and it's not easy. And therefore, again, I strongly suggest that you back up your data and have updated virus and malware software installed and updated on your computer. All right. Please do not assume updates are happening automatically. For instance, Zoom does not automatically update on Windows computers or laptops. Google Chrome and Firefox browsers do not automatically update. I don't care what your settings are, they don't automatically. These take relaunching or new installations in order to update these programs. When you're, as far as copying data or mirroring your information, we're talking about copying the data on a 3-2-1 recommendation. This is the general principle out there, 3-2-1. Make 3 copies of your data that includes your data files, it includes your videos, it includes your images. Make sure they're on 2 separate media. That means the original and a different media. And make sure that one of those is off-site of the original. Now, whether that's physically off-site or whether that's in the cloud, that's regardless, whichever you choose. And again, it's your level of risk that determines how you choose. Locally will mean that it's only on your main hard drive or a separate hard drive. Cloud storage means you do need internet access, but I also have to warn you, it's not totally safe. But the benefits are you do save space, you may save time and money, there's redundancy, you could access it from multiple locations. But as we learned in 2023, storage in the cloud is not always secure. Google Drive had a loss. I actually lost data on Google Drive, but fortunately had it backed up elsewhere. So although it is far better, it's not 100%. That basically wraps things up. I do want to let you know that we have over 100 PDFs available on various subjects, including privacy and security out there. We actually have free one-on-one assistance for small questions, and this will be the link to our appointment calendar if you do want to contact us and set up an appointment to talk to us individually. We want to thank you. This is our email address, and again, the link to our calendar, and this will be on the pass out, and again, it'll be on the Facebook streaming and online availability. And any other questions before we stop the recording and share some other information with you?
And in the chat.
None in the chat. Okay, Deanna, you want to stop the recording then?
Yep. Hold on.